What's up, guys? As you can see, this video is going to be all about the acquisitions process. So whether you're a beginner wholesaler that hasn't made a call yet, an intermediate wholesaler who just wants to get better at closing, or an advanced wholesaler that just needs this video to send to their next acquisitions rep, this video will be all you need regarding the acquisitions training. Acquisitions is arguably one of the most important parts in wholesaling because it is the only thing that actually creates opportunities and makes money for the business. So it doesn't matter what type of lead you're generating or how much money you're spending or what type of systems you have, what mentor you have, if you can't talk to someone on the phone thoroughly. And in this video, I'm obviously going to be teaching you how to become a great closer. I promise you, if you implement this framework and then start calling people, you will get way longer talking time, you'll build way more rapport with sellers, and you'll actually be able to decipher who is a good lead and who is a bad lead right off the bat. This is the framework that I use personally to generate over 6 figures wholesaling myself, and I basically just compiled it all on one big mirror board that took me a shitload of time to create. So if you guys do enjoy this video and you do receive some type of value from it, make sure to leave a like, leave a sub, and drop a comment. And yeah, let's just get straight into the training. All right, boys, there's a lot to go over, so I'm just gonna get straight into it. This is the Wholesaling Master Closing Framework that I personally made myself, and this basically goes over every single type of lead, how to introduce yourself to each type of lead, how to transfer it to the next person, and how to go all the way from initially speaking to the lead to negotiating a good offer with them and getting them inevitably locked up. So first thing I'm going to go through is context and what type of lead deserves what type of treatment. So an inbound lead, obviously they filled out a form. So you're going to be saying, hey, I saw you filled out a form. Inbound lead on Facebook, same type of thing. They filled out a form. Outbound lead, hey, I saw you responded to my agent's text regarding blank. This is for SMS. Outbound lead VA, hey, blank. My agent ran me through the conversation you guys had about the property and basically just the normal introduction. And then a warm lead, so a FSBO or something that is listed, you would basically be saying, hey, blank, saw your listing about blank. And after all of those, you're saying something along the lines of just some background on myself and why I'm calling. We are remodelers in XYZ and we buy these properties cash. I just need 10 to 15 minutes of your time to go over details regarding your property. Is now a good time? If now is not a good time, then no worries at all. Just to confirm you are serious about selling, correct? If they are serious about selling, perfect. When is a good time to talk next? Also, do me a favor, please save my contact in your phone so you know it's me calling back. You should always have the seller save you as a contact in your phone just so they know you as the home seller guy. If you don't have them save your number in their phone, they are not going to care when you call them back because they're going to be like, oh, I don't even know this number. Who is this guy? But if they actually save you down as Dylan, the home buyer, they are going to remember that you are the person buying homes. So make sure you have them save your name. If no, then you put them in a long-term nurture or you delete. The big thing about real estate is disqualification. Disqualification needs to be ruthless. If someone's sitting there wasting your time, you need to get off the phone with them like that. There's no point in you wasting your time sitting on the phone with someone for 20 minutes who is not going to generate you any substantial amounts of money. And the good thing about progressing with real estate is you will get better and better at DQing people. I'm at the point where I can talk to someone for 3 minutes and I will know if they are a deal or not a deal. So that is the level of disqualification that you need to inevitably get to, but the only way to get to that level is obviously just by putting in a shit ton of reps and learning the business over time. Now, if they actually do want to sell, you say something along the lines of, perfect, so catch me up to speed. How much were you looking to get for this property? If their price is ridiculous, you set the expectations up front. So just to set expectations up front, we are investors, meaning we are inevitably looking to make a profit on the property, but in return, we will give you a quick and convenient closing. At that price, it would make no sense for us to purchase. Is this still a conversation worth having? If no, no problem. If you're truly looking to get that big number, your best bet is to go with a realtor. That way you can list it on the market and get the most amount of money possible for this property. No matter what, you always want to leave on a good note with a lead. You never want to have someone say like, fuck you, get out of here. You know, you're wasting my time. You're a wholesaler. You don't want to have that type of rapport. You want to keep a good positive note of rapport just in case this lead ever decides to close via follow-up. If they need to sell cash, you need to be the guy that they were like, oh, that guy was a cash buyer. He was actually really nice on the phone. Cool, I'll call him back up. Maybe he can help me out now, even if the situation doesn't make sense in the moment. Follow-up is king with real estate, and rapport is king, of course, as well. Now, if they actually do want to sell, we can get into the condition of the property. So, for the asking price phase of the acquisitions process, ideally we do not want to waste time with people asking outrageous amounts. We ask price first to filter out as soon as possible. We also do this to better leverage ourselves later in the call and get it out of the way. If someone If someone's asking $1 million for a $500,000 property, no matter what the other, pillars are, no matter how good they sound, we're not going to be able to give them what they want. So asking price is the most important thing, so we get it out of the way right away. Now, getting on to condition. Sounds good. Tell me about the condition of the property. If it's a piece of land, you ask different questions, like, is the land buildable? What is the zoning of the lot? What were you planning on doing with the lot? What's the square footage? Does it have utilities ran to it? Does it have road access, back road or main road? If it is a home, you obviously have different questions. So these are the basic questions. Walk me through the property's condition. Any major issues? Any updates or repairs in the last 5 years? How's the foundation? Beds, baths, square foot? How old's the roof? Any leaks? Age of the HVAC system, so the heating and air. Are there any known leaks in the plumbing? Do you know what type of piping they use? So copper, PEX, CPVC, PVC. What type of plumbing did they use? How is the electrical? Any rewiring needed or lights that don't work? We want to know the exact condition of the property, and we want to get them to give you so much detail that you can sit there and actually visualize what the property needs just by thinking off of your brain using what you know. So that is how detailed you need to get the seller to actually start talking. A question that I really like asking is, if I give you $100,000 to make this house look like it was ready to be thrown on TV, what would you do to it? They'll be like, oh yeah, I would put marble here and I would do this, don't do that. And that'll give you a rough idea of what an investor is going to need to do to get that up to the ARV condition. And then last question you obviously ask, is there a loan on it or is it free and clear? And while you are asking these questions, you are taking notes so you don't forget anything. Always take very detailed and thorough notes on your leads. Now, we have different situations that can arise, right? We have different questions to ask. If the property's squatter occupied, or if the property's tenant occupied, or if the property's a multifamily, we need to know what type of property it is so we can ask the right questions. Now, let's say it's an owner occupied property, right? It's the seller's only house. They don't know where they're going to move to. They need to sell this house so they can get into somewhere new. So questions to ask: how quickly are you going to be able to move out and pack your belongings? Do you need assistance with movers? Do you have a new home picked out? Sorry if I'm coughing a lot. I'm sick, by the way. And I don't want this to be super cut up. I want it to be somewhat raw. So I'm going to leave in the coughs and the ums and the buts. Just bear with me here. Do you have a new home picked out? Stuff like that. We ask why, where they're going to move to. Do they have that focus? And basically what we want to get at with these questions is, are they actually ready to make a decision? Because if they're not ready to make a decision, there's no point in giving them an offer. We only want to give offers to people who are ready to sign and ready to make us some money. If I give an offer to somebody and he really likes the offer, but he's like, oh yeah, I'm not going to sign for 2 more months because I haven't found a place to live. Oh, okay, I'll give you those 2 months. In those 2 months, he's going to get more offers, and he's probably going to get a higher offer. So we're going to lose the deal. We need to make sure that these people have a sense of urgency before we give them the offer. Now, if someone's quickly looking to move, they just got a new job, they know where they're going to move into, they know what apartment they're going to move into, that's somebody we want to work with. So ask these questions. Vacant. So if the property's vacant, how long has the property been vacant for? When is the last time you checked up on the property? Why is the property currently vacant? Did you leave it? Did you, have a brother in there that left? Did you have a tenant in there that just, got out? Are you remodeling it? Like, what's going on? Say sometimes, and this is something you want to say, sometimes when the property sits vacant for a while, since water isn't ran and lights aren't turned on, some of the mechanicals may be in worse condition than expected. Also, the house may start to settle. Things can happen that the seller might not be aware of. Just wanted to make sure in case anything comes up during our walkthrough, our inspection, anything like that. We want to let them know that in the case of the property sitting vacant for a while and stuff going wrong in it, if it's been vacant and they haven't put their eyes on it, they're not going to know the condition. So they could tell us it's in beautiful condition, but we get there and a pipe burst that we didn't even know of. And that could have flooded the entire house, ruined everything. Now it's a full gut. So it went from being turnkey to a full gut. So we need to let them know that, you haven't put your eyes on the property in a while. Anything could have happened. So my offer might drastically change once we actually see the property. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. Squatter occupied. This is, it's doable to deal with, but we do need to be a lot lower. But these are the type of questions to ask. How long have the squatters been in the property? Have you seen the condition of the property since they, moved in? Are the squatters able to get in contact with? Are they friendly? Are they hostile? What is the relationship that you have with the squatters? Any chance that they would accept cash for keys? You have to realize that the seller is going to know the squatter better than you. So it's your job to kind of understand what type of squatter it is from what the seller says. If it's someone who genuinely just can't pay rent, most of the time they're going to be willing to, get out for cash for keys. It's going to be really easy. But if it's someone who actually broke in and is hostile and is, didn't comply with the sheriff, didn't comply with the cops, then you might have to handle it a little bit different. And you might have to, give them a lawyer, go through an eviction process. Who knows, right? So we have to ask these questions to figure out what type of, squatter is actually in the property. Here's something you can say. We deal with these situations all the time. It's not going to be a problem for us at all to help you out of that situation, but this is a factor that is going to take more resources on our end. With that being said, the offer may come back a little lower because of this. They just have to know that since we're dealing with squatters, they might need to be a little bit lower, which is completely understandable. Tenant occupied. Here's the questions asked. How much are the tenants paying in rent? Have they ever been late on a payment? What is the relationship like between you and the tenants? Are they friendly? Are they hostile? Section 8 or normal rent? Who pays the utilities? Are you able to have them vacate prior to closing? Now, if the asking price is good enough for a flip, ideally we want the tenants out prior to closing. If not, we will try and negotiate something out with them to get them out or possibly bump the rent up. Our primary exit strategy is to fix and flip, and obviously we can't do that unless the tenants are vacant, so we would be able to offer you more if the tenants could get out prior to closing. They need to know that. Now, if the asking price tailors more towards a rental play, ideally we want the tenants out prior to closing so we can choose our own tenants. With that being said, we can inherit the tenant as long as they are compliant and friendly and are willing to pay market standard for rent. A lot of times, the landlords you will be talking to undercharge their tenants simply because they've been in there for a while, or it's a family member, and they have to understand. The seller has to understand that, hey, we're not going to be able to take below market rent just because you have a relationship with this person. I don't even know who this is. They're going to have to pay their fair share. Multifamily. So this is for 5, 6, 7 units. Triplexes, quadplexes. How many properties or how many units are in the property total? Are they all actually legal? Sometimes people throw in, they separate the rooms and then rent them out separate, and that's not always legal. So they need to make sure they have the proper permitting by the city to do this. So just ask, are they all legal? Do the units have separate metering for the electric and the gas and whatnot? Are all the units occupied or are some vacant? What is the total cash flow per month? What is the breakdown of each unit? Are all the units in the same condition? This is things we need to ask for multifamily properties. If the property is bigger than 4 to 5 units, do you have a rent roll sheet, pro forma document? These are basically documents that state how the property is cash flowing, what the expenses are, how much income the property is actually producing, and we're able to use that to calculate a cap rate and give offers on these multifamily properties. If you guys want, I can do a whole video on how to comp out multifamily and how to wholesale multifamily, but that is obviously too complex for this video. I'm not going to go over it right now. This is primary for the acquisitions process, and I don't want to waste too much time on going over redundant topics that aren't really too fitting right now. So once we go through the condition phase, we ask condition to gather all of our real estate questions. It is subjective which questions to ask based on the property. So pay attention to which category it falls into and gather all of the questions in detail. So as you guys can see, we ask the basic questions, and then once we get the basic questions out of the way, we can go into the more niche questions that have to do with what the property actually is. Cool. So now we're going into motivation. I like to say, got it. I got all of my notes that I need about the property itself. Now that I got that out of the way, what has you even looking to sell it in the first place? We dig deep past surface level here. So if someone says, I want cash for my property, that's why I'm selling it. Okay, what are you going to do with that cash? Oh, you're going to go buy another property. What type of property are you looking to buy? Oh, okay, you're going to live in it? Oh, you're going to rent it out. Okay, so you want more income. Oh, got it. So that's an investment property. I just made 5 questions off of 1 question. That's how much, digging deep you need to do. And I can do that with any type of motivation. So obviously, that's very subjective. Somebody's mom could have passed or something could have happened. I don't know everybody's situation. So these responses vary based on emotions rather than answers. Tonality is key. You need to be able to sympathize with the person dependent on how they're feeling in the moment. So understand their situation and describe how you are going to be the one to help them out. If they give you a sad response, just give sympathy. I completely understand. I'm sorry to hear. You got to dig deeper into that motivation, but you don't want to be too personal. Remember, you're a stranger. They don't know you. They're probably not going to want to open up fully to you, but you need to have them trust you as a professional, and, obviously you need to do your job. So ask the proper questions. Just don't dig too deep, right? If someone's family member passed away, respect that. Move on. But yeah, you do have to, point out why they even need to sell in the first place. So if they're, let's say, God forbid, their mom passed away and they can't afford the taxes on the property and they can't afford the mortgage anymore, They need to sell or else they're going to start accruing a lot of debt. You need to point that out to them. Be like, hey, I completely understand the situation. I know, if the taxes are going to build up and, you're not going to be able to pay off the mortgage, eventually it's going to get foreclosed on. And obviously we don't want that to happen. We want you to still walk away with something in your pocket. So, you're probably going to need to take cash here. Does that make sense? Have them understand their urgency. If they give you an energetic response, feed into that energy. Like, oh yeah, I'm really going to sell because I need to put this money into this play, or I want to, pay for my son's college. If they're energetic about it, feed into that energy. Of course, man, that's why I'm here to help you get this thing done so you can just move on. You can start the new chapter. Your tonality really matters, right? Like, if you're talking to a nice old grandma that's very, gloomy because something bad happened, you're going to lower your tone. You're going to be like, okay, I completely understand. But if someone comes off at you like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Like, yeah, feed into that. Be like, oh, yeah, man, like, we're going to get this done. We're going to help you out. Like, tonality is very big when it comes to sales. If they give you an angry response, you got to feed into their anger. So, I understand, man. I understand why you're frustrated, bro. I mean, listen, I would be too if I was in your shoes. Like, I completely understand that you're mad about this and that. You have to feed into their anger. Same thing. Tonality. Feed into it. You got to, like, almost match their tone. If they give you a monotone response, you have to discover their urgency. So if someone doesn't really seem like they even need to sell, why are they talking to you in the first place? Be like, okay, well, from my understanding, it doesn't really even seem like you need to sell right now. Like, what's the worst case scenario if you don't sell? Oh, okay, this doesn't happen. You're not going to have the money to pay for this. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Now, I'm going to be honest, like, the best case scenario to get the most amount of money for your property is just listing it on market. Is there something about listing on market that you don't like? Is that why you're, reaching out to a cash investor? Oh, okay, that makes more sense. You don't want to deal with the 90-day close. You need it done in 30 days. You don't want to deal with inspections, appraisals, all of that. So that's why you don't want to go on market. Got it. Makes a lot of sense. Point out their urgency. Make sure they know why they actually need to sell, because most of the time, monotone people don't understand that they actually need to sell. Like, if someone's like, oh yeah, man, I just want to get it off my hands. Okay, but why? Why do you need to do that? And you need to point that out to them. So they need to get off the call with you understanding, like, okay, he actually made a lot of sense. I actually got to sell this house. I don't want it in my life anymore. I need the money for this. I need the money for that. And I need it done fast. And he is right. I don't like on market. So make them, basically second guess themselves. Like, okay, I actually do need to sell my house, rather than, yeah, I'll sell it. From there, we can transition. So transition from the acquisitions call into the offer call. With the transition, this is where we go from the screening call to obviously the offer call. The key here is to create leverage and let them know what you will provide. Thanks for your time, man. Like, I will completely have all of that information passed to my underwriting team, and they're going to process it, and they're going to get you an offer in the next 30 to 45 minutes. Just so you know, before I give you that offer, all of our offers include that we're going to be covering all the closing costs, title fees, transfer tax. So the number that we present to you is what you're going to be walking away with. We also will be able to close in as little as 14 to 21 days. That's just company courtesy, and it's since we're using cash for the deal, we're able to close very quickly. Does that make sense? Got it. With that being said, when are you going to be free for that call? Ideally, we want to Ideally, we want to schedule this call as soon as possible. So we don't want to book this call, 3 days out. We want to book this call, within 2 hours, just so they're fresh in their mind. They're like, okay, yeah, I really need to sell. Remember how we're feeding into their motivation? That is only going to last so long. People make emotional decisions. If you get someone riled up, and if you get someone like, oh my gosh, I need to sell, and I'm going to do this with the money, I'm going to do that with the money, I need to do this now. If you give them an offer 30 minutes, they're still going to have that emotion built up. But if you give them that offer 3 days from now, they're going to not have that emotion built up. So you're going to have to start feeding into motivation a little bit more. So don't let it drag out for too long. Ideally, we want that, offer call to be set up within 3 to 4 hours from the initial acquisitions call, so that we can still catch them while they're still motivated, while they still actually want to sell their property. Jeez, I've been sick for so long. It sucks. I don't know what's going around. Apparently, everyone's sick right now, but I definitely got it pretty bad. Cool. So now we're going on to the offer call. So you guys got to remember, when we give an offer, we have to be confident. We don't want to go in the call with oh yeah, and our offer is going to be $240,000. We want to be talking in an uptone. Yeah, so, my underwriters got back with it. Our offer is $240,000. See how I toned up instead of toning down? We have to be confident in the way we speak, or else it's going to seem like, oh, this guy's weirish. Like, this guy knows it's a low ball. The goal is to always leave on good terms, regardless of how low the offer is to the asking price. You never want to have someone say, fuck you, man, you're lowballing me. Listen, man, I completely understand you think I'm lowballing you. But, you got to understand from my perspective, if we do this, if we do that, and then we list it back on the market, we're losing money at your price. So I just am giving you a realistic number. Does that make sense? you don't have to take it, man. Like, it's just an offer. I just want to let you know what like an investor would pay. Always leave on good terms, because most deals will close versus follow-up. You know what I mean? Like, people have to have time to think about this thing. It's selling their house. It's not closing someone on like a closing call. It's literally selling their house. So they have to be at the perfect spot at the perfect time, and we have to give them the perfect thing that they actually want to make a deal work. So that's why this is a very volume-based business. But we can obviously, with better closing skills, make this a more skill-based business. If you have a lowball offer, so let's say they're asking $250,000 and your offer comes in at $170,000, we don't want to come off like, listen, man, like, this offer is really good, it's $170,000, and then they're like, oh, what the fuck, get out of my face, you're wasting my time. We have to frame this before giving the offer. By the way, our underwriters came in a bit lower than what you were asking for. The reason being is, this comp and that comp, and the repair cost is going to be this, and we bought a house in this area and it ended up being this much money, stuff like that. With that being said, our offer is $200,000. Are you willing to move down from your $300,000 asking price at all? If they're not, then you just put them in a 1 to 2 month follow-up to see if anything changes. Now, if they say yes and they are willing to come down, you start the negotiation, which I'll go over in a second. Oh, jeez. Now, if they are near asking, frame seriousness before the offer. Hey, real quick before we go over the offer, I just wanted to know if there's any other decision makers, or if you are ready to move forward today, if the number is right. We want to make sure that they're actually willing to take the offer. That way, if we give them a really good offer and they're willing to accept it, they actually sign. Because most of the time you'll get an accepted offer and they'll never sign a contract. That's because they're not truly ready to move forward. We need to make sure they're truly ready to move forward. If not, ask when they will be ready to make a decision and give them a range that your offer will fall. So let's say our MAO is 170. Instead of giving them that 170 number, I would be like, hey man, realistically, like, our offer is going to be for like 140 to 180, but obviously I can't give you a concrete offer if you're not ready to move forward to today. So let me know when you're ready to move forward, and then I'll be able to give you like our set in stone, like exact on the dot number. Give urgency by saying the offer may change to market shifts. So like, obviously, we can pay this amount then, but if you wait 3 months, man, like, God knows how much I could pay. The market is going to, it could crash, interest rates could, be changed from then to now, stuff like that. Things can happen, market can shift. Our offer is not going to stay the same. If they are serious about selling and they are ready to move forward, our offer came in at blank. Always a bit below asking price. So even if they want a great number, start a little bit below it. So if they want 155, our MAO is 170, just start at 150. Be like, hey man, we're close. Like, I'm at 150, you're at 155. Can we make 150 work? Perfect. Or if you have to negotiate, this is where you start the negotiation. Number 1 tip is to never do live negotiation. So, sounds good. I know you're at 100K and I'm at 80K. I'm going to go on hold to see if my partner, to talk to my partner to see if we can come up at all. Okay? And then you put them on a brief hold for a few minutes. Hey man, my partner was able to come up to, 90K. Is that something you're willing to move forward with? If no, repeat until you land on a number. Worst case, put on follow-up in 3 to 4 days. If you're really close on the number, make sure you're ruthlessly following up with that person, because chances are they'll sleep on it. They'll think about it. They'll be like, oh, this guy's a nice guy. He seems professional. $2,000 isn't worth making an argument over. Maybe I'll take it. Okay, cool. Send me a purchase sale. That's why we need ruthless follow-up here. Remember, it's a follow-up game. So your systems, your automations have to be dialed in to make sure that you get these leads converted and you actually get them to the finish line. Perfect, man. We'll be sending an agreement over shortly. Once it is prepared, I will give you a call so we can go over it. What's your email? Anybody else that needs to be on the document to sign? What time actually works for the review? And that is it. Once we go from there, we obviously do a live signing. That's a separate video of how to go over a contract. And I made a video on how to fill out a purchase and sale and how to go over it with the seller, so you can watch that video. I'll link it down below. But yeah, guys, that's basically it for the acquisitions process. Remember, it goes price, condition, motivation, timeline, and then you have the offer call. We have it in that exact order for a reason, and you guys just learned why. And yeah, that's my closing framework. I also down here have all of these objections built out, but I'm going to keep this primarily for the group. And yeah, guys. So yeah, guys, that's going to be about it for this video. One thing I want you guys to take away from this is that the framework is very important. Like, you need to be saying these things in a certain way so you know how to structure these calls. But ultimately, at the end of the day, someone who just sounds better and sounds more professional and sounds more like enthusiastic and, just more well-spoken is going to close more deals. People like to sell their house to other people. They don't like to sell their house to random strangers on the phone that's reading directly off a script. So you got to remember that. You got to make sure you sound like a normal person. You got to make sure you're sounding like a natural speaker and you're not forcing any of these words out. And that's inevitably how you will close the most deals. But yeah, boys, as always, if you guys want to work with me and Hunter one-to-one to close more wholesale deals or close your first wholesale deal, whatever your goals are, we can help you with them. We have access to the best marketing, the best systems, the best automations, and you also get full access to this closing framework that I built out with all the objections and everything. You can book a call down below. It's the first link, and you'll talk to somebody on my team to discuss if it would be a good fit for you or not. But yeah, guys, that's going to be it. Leave a like, leave a sub, and comment what you want the next video to be about. But yeah, hope you guys got value from this video. See you guys in the next one. Peace.